is written. So, at the eve of the end, the demon of Vatzoatl has finally come for me.
Okay, so this will be my first proper build video for Path. So yeah, go easy on me here. This build is the Stormweaver Adonia's Ego mana stacking build. The goal of the build is to utilize the Pinnacle of Power buff in combination with Archmage and your mana for damage and life. This build is extremely tanky, does hilarious amounts of damage. I mean, you can breeze through all the content. It's relatively cheap to set up, but you can also invest, you know, multiple mirrors in this build if you want, but you absolutely don't need to for it to be able to complete all the content. Now, how it works is we are getting as many power charges as we can to fuel the Pinnacle of Power buff. This gives us 17% more elemental damage per power charge consumed, which is an absurd amount of damage. You get 17% when it's 20% quality, so you want to make sure that your wand has quality. Now, the big downside of this wand is you have minus 10% to all elemental resistances per power charge. There is a very easy workaround for that. All you have to do is have all of your power charge things on weapon set 2. So we get max power charges from here, max power charge from here, and then from here. And now, how we get power charges is with this node in weapon set 2. Gain a power charge when you consume an elemental infusion. So what we do is we cast our Frost Bomb, gives us all a lot of infusions, and then we will cast Firestorm. Now that's giving me 9 power charges immediately. I swap back to weapon set 1 with casting a skill, and I consume the power charges. Now I have all the upsides of the Pinnacle of Power buff with no downsides, as I cannot get power charges with weapon set 1. And then weapon set 1, we just have some damage stuff here. Cold, freeze. We take all of these nodes because I forgot to mention the Pinnacle of Power also makes all of your elemental damage contribute to every other debuff. So fire will shock, fire will freeze, you know, electric will freeze, and vice versa. So this whole wheel over here is an immense amount of damage. Right here, hits ignore non-negative elemental resistance to frozen enemies. That's amazing, so we don't have to worry about elemental penetration or anything like that, because we're instantly freezing everything. And yeah, you can see that's on weapon set 1. This is on weapon set 1. These are on weapon set 1 for infusions. Increases our damage, increased fusion. This one, increased damage for elemental aimlet on enemy. We're inflicting all of them all at once on every enemy, so huge damage increase. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, the skill tree. Now, that's basically how the build works. Now I will go over the skills. Hopefully this is you guys are able to follow this. So our main skill is Ice Nova. This is what we are freezing and proccing everything with. It's got a huge radius with cold infusions, and it's just an amazing clear skill. It's everything you need. You could use Spark if you wanted to and just swap out Ice Nova for Spark, but I've tested both, and for me, Ice Nova feels way better. Also, Spark builds are so incredibly common, it's just kind of boring for me at this point. A big upside, though, is while you're moving around, you only are tapping Frost Nova every once in a while. So the movement speed penalty for the skill feels a lot negligible. Whereas with Spark, you're just constantly spamming it out, right? Which is also a little more infusion hungry. So to me, it feels a little worse to play. You can certainly play Spark, but I think Ice Nova is better. So now on all of our skills, we are running Life Tap. So we are trying to stack as much mana as we can for our Archmage, and we don't want to be using our mana, and so we are using Life as our mana pool. So on every single skill that would consume mana, you would need to slot in Life Tap. So Ice Nova's got Life Tap, Pinpoint Critical. Zenith is insane because it gives us efficiency and 30% more damage when we're above 90% mana, which is constantly since we're not even using it. So that's a free multiplicative damage increase. Considered Casting, also 35% more damage for 15% less cast speed. It's not a big deal because you're not even, you're not even spamming it like crazy anyway. And the last slot, you can kind of have whatever you want. You really don't need Diala's Desire. This is a super min-max thing. You can put in increased freeze buildup or just the other +1 level. The reason the quality is nice on this is Ice Nova gets 30% more elemental or more damage with hits against enemies that are chilled. So it gives us 10% more multiplicative damage, which is pretty strong. But you absolutely don't need that in the build. Now, Firestorm is really important. This is what we were generating our power charges with, and we will only use this on weapon set 1. Or, sorry, weapon set 2. Everything else is on weapon set 1. So we have Life Tap, Zenith, Pinpoint Critical. Zakharov's Reframe, this makes it echo and consume more infusions, which makes it consistently give us our max power charges each time we use it. And then Overabundance for more skill limit on it. Pretty standard elemental weakness, Cursed Ground, Titan Curse, Life Tap. That's kind of all you really need for this, is these three. The others, doesn't really matter. You could slot in increased prolonged duration 2 instead of efficiency, or swap out magnified area for duration. I don't feel like I ever need it for long because you only ever precast it on bosses. Now, Frost Bomb, we have short fuse because we are only really using this for infusions. So we want it to pop as fast as possible to give us our infusions. So we got short fuse, Spell Cascade, Ingenuity, or cooldown recovery for, being able to spam it faster. Remnants, Harmonic Remnants, we can, grab the shit further away, and it has a chance to give us even more remnants, and then Life Tap. Now, Archmage is very important. It just gives us a crazy amount of damage, and you really don't need Cannibalism. I just have it here because I have enough Spirit. It really doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but I have nothing else to really slot in, so you only really need Lightning Mastery. Archmage is also very important because we are using Elemental Storms. And Elemental Storms will spawn a storm of the type that is the biggest damage in that hit. So we want it to be shocking things for for lightning exposure here. So yeah. Now we have Arbiter's Ignition. You gain Elemental Archon when you ignite an enemy. This is a crazy strong buff. It kind of only matters for bosses. During mapping or anything else, it'll just randomly be off and on. But it doesn't matter. But for bosses, it's a huge damage increase, and you don't have to worry about doing anything extra. This will just pop when you have your Pinnacle of Power buff and you're hitting the boss, and you'll just get this. So 25% more elemental, another multiplier, and then you have increased buildup with everything. And since all of our element is already doing that, it just makes everything even crazier for bosses. So this is a really crazy support for this build. Life Tap, because it costs mana. Zenith, obviously exposure, so it's giving us that lightning exposure, just giving us a little bit more extra damage on everything. And then cooldown recovery for, more of them. More of them consistently. And we are using Cast on Elemental Ailment. This is obviously insane, because like I said before, you're getting all the elements constantly. So comets are just raining down constantly, as you saw in the showcase. You just want to corrupt it for another level. It doesn't matter about the sockets, obviously, since you're slotting it in. So really easy, really cheap to make. Here, you don't need Adelui's Bloodletting. That is just pure min-max extra damage since it's using life. Yeah, you really don't need it. You can just have life tap, but if you want a little bit more damage, you can slot that in. Zenith, pinpoint critical, and here we have Arc. Arc is surprisingly strong because it gives you more magnitude of shocks you inflict, because this is also going off constantly. It will kill things off screen, and it is the only thing that's using our lightning infusions. So we are getting 200% more damage on this skill as well when we're lightning infused, which is constantly. And that brings us to Siphon Elements. Now, since you have a chance, this just gives you a chance to spawn an element when you affect someone with ailment, constant ailments, constant remnants. You're always basically max on all of your remnants, mapping and otherwise. It's pretty crazy. You just got harmonic remnants, remnant potency, and I just threw in cold mastery. Yes. And then mana remnants is the last required thing for this build to feel good. It will overfill your max mana, which is we're using as our life, just from killing things with elemental ailments. So you're constantly getting your life topped up if you ever even get hit with this build. Alrighty. Now let's talk about the rest of the gear. Since we are running pinpoint critical in all of our things, we are using Malagoros to go around the downside of the less critical damage. So that is required. And the other most important piece is the Covenant Altar Robe. This gives us spell damage leeched as life. And this basically just gives us infinite mana, quote unquote. There's never a problem running out of mana. We do so much damage that this 10% or even any percent of our spell damage leeched as life will immediately top you up. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, we're using that to leech life, and then on the rest of the gear, you're just trying to solve your resistances. You're trying to stack as much intelligence as you can and flat mana. So, I mean, it's relatively straightforward. Fix your resistances, get max mana and int on almost all your gear. That's the most important thing. Obviously, there's min-max things you can do with all of that. For example, the helmet can have a corrupt to max power charges, which is really crazy strong, obviously, since each one will give us 17% more multiplicative spell damage with Pinnacle of Power, and it will increase the buff's duration. So that's pretty nice. You don't need this at all. 8 is more than enough, but you can definitely go for a +1 corrupt on the helmet. It's one of the few ways you can get more without sacrificing other pieces of gear for some uniques with power charges. I believe there's some boots that they give you more and stuff like that, but that's not really worth it. Amulet, you want mana, spell skills, spirit, pretty standard stuff. I crafted this myself. I crafted this and my ring myself. But you can get you should be able to find pretty good ones for not too crazy expensive. Yeah. This build is pretty it's a little stat hungry. So you need enough strength to be able to suck all the life taps in. So I have 14 strength capacity for things, but you only need 13. You could get, I don't need cannibalism, so then you only need 13. And then dex, you basically just need enough dex to equip the Malagoros. And then every other stat roll you can get on your gear, specifically with strength, you can look at it as intelligence. Because the less strength you need to allocate on your tree, the more int you can grab. So I believe I'm currently at the point in this build where I don't have a single strength point in my entire tree. You don't need to do that, but It's like another little thing you can do to eke out more mana, because mana equals damage and health. So you kind of want to be going for that as much as you can. So I have strength on my belt, I have strength and int on my shrine scepter, yeah, and then dex on my amulet, which basically all just translates into intelligence, since now I have those points for the skill tree. Okay, now Dream Fragments, really good. It's not too expensive. I would recommend just getting an 18% increased mana. Obviously, depending on your budget, you can go crazy with this ring. You can get up to, I believe, a 21% mana corrupt, but those are extremely expensive. So if you get a 15% increase and then just slap 20% mana on it, it'll give you 18%. And that shouldn't be more than like 5 div probably at this point. So not expensive. Obviously, if you're going to go for some extra corrupts, yeah, prices climb very quickly. Yes. And now the Shrine Scepter. Shrine Scepter you want to probably grab at the end once you've got everything, as you will need to probably fix one res with a scepter. So whatever res you're missing, just grab that scepter. And what is most important on the scepter is obviously increased spirit, strength and int, like I said, great, because that just translates to more mana. Yeah, because then you don't need to allocate it. And the highest spirit and the highest flat mana. Everything else doesn't matter at all on the Shrine Scepter. A thing you can work towards, which makes the build feel way better, is Blasphemy. Well, Blasphemy is pretty expensive. It's 76. Spirit with the setup I have with temp chains, but the survivability and the feel of the build goes up dramatically if you can get Blasphemy. It's just depending if you have enough spirit, basically. So yeah, you need a pretty high roll on this. I think at least you want one. If you have 50 spirit on your amulet, you need like 180 spirit, I believe, on this to run temp chains. If you can't afford it immediately, that's fine, but it's definitely something you should work towards. It makes the whole build feel a lot safer and tanky to play. Okay, I think I've gone through everything. Another note, Covenant of the Altar Robe is also probably the most expensive thing in this whole build. But it also has the biggest variance. The most important line you need spell damage leached as life. Bare minimum, you need that, and you can find those for less than a divine. You can find those for like 80 exalts or less. That's super cheap. It starts getting expensive when the skills line is removed, which I can show here. The skills gain base life cost equal to 100% base mana. So when that is removed from the chest piece, that's when they start getting really expensive. Prices have dropped on these a lot though, so if you can afford it, I would highly recommend getting one without that line. And then what you would want on it is life cost efficiency. So that just makes everything cost less. It makes your comets cost less. It makes your ice nova cost less. It makes the build feel a bit more comfortable to play. And at some point in the build, it does make you have more comets, because if you don't have enough life to proc your cast on ailment, then it won't proc them. So it's a pretty important line. It's pretty expensive, but you can shop around on these at all price points. You do not need to get the level of the one I have. Yeah, This cost me 500 div for 50% with these rolls and a triple socket. But you can get one with that line removed and life cost efficiency for probably like 30-40 div, which is what you would want to get. Okay, if you want to get a rite of passage, you could kind of get whatever you want. I think the bear feels the best on this, as it gives you more life to use as mana. It gives you increased stun threshold and stun buildup, which is whatever, but also the 20% reduced damage taken is really nice. We are already extremely tanky in this build, but this makes it that much more tanky. And the stun threshold is extremely nice, because before you get temp chains, you definitely get stunned a lot with that, because since we don't have any energy shield, our stun threshold is purely based on our life, and you won't have a crazy amount of life in this build, so it has a pretty low stun threshold. So that's another reason why temp chains is really, really good to run with blasphemy on this build, because if nothing can hit you, then obviously you're not going to be getting stunned, and then this just helps even more with that and lets you take less damage. Now, I have 0 chaos res. I haven't needed it. You're so tanky. I just haven't needed it. You could try to work it in to this build. Say, for example, instead of strength on the belt, you could get a chaos roll. Or you could work in chaos on your rings or your anything, really. But I haven't needed it. I just use this charm. I mean, I've got to level 97 very easily with this character, and I've maybe died twice since I've been playing this build. Both of times were just weird DCs on the Steam Deck, so yeah. And then a stun charm for the stun. You can grab one of these flasks, it doesn't really matter, but since I don't ever even use my mana flask or even have it on my bar, so I just thought might as well get some passive mana regen. Doesn't really matter though, because mana remnants tops you up constantly in this build, so yeah, it's just another little thing you can do. Okay, now let's go over gems or jewels. One important jewel is a Heart of the Well. You want a percent of your leech to be instant. It doesn't have to be high. Even 8%, the minimum roll, is enough to instantly refill your health on any damage dealt, because this build does so much damage that little bit of leech instantly tops you up. And then everything else, I would say this is probably the best stats you could possibly get on it. You want crit chance and gain as extra. That's amazing, because we want our comets to be critting as much as we want. That's why we've taken these crit nodes on the tree. This is an extremely strong node right here. Gives us a lot of crit chance. But yeah, the biggest thing is just leeches instant. And those cost, I mean, if you just get leeches instant with nothing, they cost almost nothing. They're basically free. No one cares about that single line on a Heart of the Well. Now the Time Lost Diamond, I have no idea what this is worth now. I got this for 6 annuls. Probably the most important line would be plus to mana. If you can get these for cheap with increased int and mana, then go for it. If not, get one of the other, get either intelligence percent or mana percent, and then yeah, just get a second useful thing. For example, you could get mana, I believe, with a resistance, plus to resistance, which would make capping your resistance a bit easier. Yeah. So that's the Time Lost. Now, these last 2 jewels are what I have in my build, you do not have to have the same thing. I mean, you probably can't. But here I'm using a Megalomaniac with Tides of Change, increased skill effect duration, and Blessing of the Moon. Increased skill effect duration for everyone I freeze, up to 40%. This just makes the build feel a lot more comfy to play, as the Pinnacle of Power buff's duration is increased by quite a bit. You don't need to get this at all. You can, but yeah. I mean, Megalomaniac is, you know, whatever you can imagine for your build, you could probably find on the market. So if you want more crit, get one with more crit, so on and so forth. Now, I've pathed down here and grabbed another jewel, a 3+ Ice Nova skills. This is also not mandatory at all. I got this for 10 divines. I checked the market today and they're over 100, so you really do not need this at all. Honestly, a rare jewel with critical hit chance and spell critical hit chance 15/15 would probably be better than this, or as good. So if you don't have a Megalomaniac to use, or you don't want to get a Prism of Belief, then you could just get a 15% crit chance and a 15% crit chance to spell hits on these jewels, and you'll be super good to go. Your crit chance will be crazy high. So right now I'm sitting at a base of 77 with Ice Nova, and Comet is a 84, which is more than enough. And that is before we get this node. So I believe after this my Comet is 89, and yeah, the other one's a bit higher too. So that's already a lot of crit. I could probably cap my crit if I swapped out those two for a crit chance rare jewel, but yeah, you don't need it. Yeah, you can kind of have whatever you want. I would copy my skill tree exact, or mostly exact. Maybe if you didn't want to get this jewel socket, you could get rid of these two and use them for something else on the tree. But I think this is one of the most optimal tree setups. Yeah. So you just copy this exact. Now for the Ascendancy. We are grabbing the Remnants. This helps us get all of our Remnants super easy and from crazy far away. You never have a problem with distance of grabbing them. I mean, you grab them from like a screen away, so you never have to worry about distance. And then we are grabbing the Elemental Storms for more crit chance, and the really strong Arbiter's Ignition interaction, and the exposure that it applies, very strong. And then we are giving 2+ elemental skills. That gives us more elemental storms and more firestorms, I believe, but mainly for the elemental storms. And I think that is the most optimal thing. You could probably get rid of these two if you really wanted Arcane Surge, but it's not needed. I think it's probably a bit weaker. But you could do that if you want. Yeah, I think I have covered everything. Sorry if this is a bit rambly. I'm just doing this in one take. I'm not some giga YouTuber that knows all this shit. Also, all credit of this build idea I got from, I believe, a Japanese YouTuber from, I think, the first week of the league. I saw him doing this and I tested it out, and yeah, it's amazing. I've improved upon it a little bit and changed some stuff around, but the core of the build is the same as he has set it up. For the most part with a skill tree. I think the only skill tree difference that I have is grabbing this jewel down here. And then when you're a high enough level, you can spend some more skill points right here to path up to these nodes instead of just going down 1, 2. You can go from here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it costs a little bit more, but this is a dead node for us, as Malagorio's sets are critical damage, and then this gives us more crit chance and more cast speed. So I pathed up there. Yeah, I think that's everything. If anyone has any questions at all, feel free to ask them, and I will get to you in the comments. I hope this was straightforward and understandable. We'll see. Yeah, crazy strong build. Strongest build I've played this league, and I have made, I think, almost every single main build and character this league. I even tried an abyssal off-meta abyssal lich, but it was not super strong. But yeah, this feels way better than the Fubgunner build. This feels way better than the wolf build that I was playing. Really wanted to make that work, but yeah. The life back, infinite mana, crazy damage ceiling, super tanky, temp changing everything, insta-killing every single boss at max difficulty before they can even act. I mean, this has got everything. I don't have any rarity in my build because I don't give a crap about rarity. You could work in rarity very easily, say on the helmet, on your rings, on your boots. Very easy. You maybe just have to juggle your resistances around a little bit more. But I really don't think you need chaos resist on this build at all. Yeah, as long as you hit the main 3, you should be fine. Yeah. All right. Well, hope this was informative, easy to follow. Any questions? Just let me know, and I'll get to you in the comments. Yeah.